talking to our players. It's been a good summer, I think, for the most part. We did have a couple guys with injuries. Ian Shefflin broke a finger and, should be fine. It'll be another couple of weeks, I think, before he's ready to go. But, that was a little unfortunate. I thought he got off to a good start. It was his shooting hand. He'd been doing a lot of work on his shooting, and so he didn't get to do quite as much with that. Jack Clark, new guy from state, had another procedure on a sports hernia that had been bothering him, and so I think hopefully that will be much better and resolved, and he'll hopefully be doing things right around practice when it starts. But he hasn't really worked out for us this summer, so that's been a little bit of a disappointment. And then Alex Hemingway, most of you know, last year obviously really struggled with a plantar fascia tear. He had surgery on that, and we're hopeful that he'll start doing a little bit more and working out here this coming week. So beyond that, I'm really pleased with our team. It's been fun having a new group. I loved last year's team, just the spirit of last year's team, obviously the leadership of last year's team with Hunter Tyson, just tremendous energy, and I just thought we did a lot of really good things and hopefully can build on some momentum from a really good ACC season. I think P.J. Hall's learned a lot. Hopefully that will help him in being a better leader, he and Chase. And I've seen some growth in both of those guys in terms of leading and just being a little more vocal, intentional, and maybe some of their comments, which I think shows some growth, which is great. Obviously, adding a bunch of new players, that it's been a pretty seamless transition. Joe Girard is obviously a guy that can really shoot the ball and very mature and focused, which I really like. He and Chase have gotten along really well, and really all the guys. It's funny, he and Asa, who is a new guy as well, obviously they love to play golf, and PJ's gotten into golf, and so those guys have gone out a bunch this summer and really bonded through golf. Asa's a heck of a player, by the way. If you get to play, you want him on your team. He's good. Played high school golf and he can play. But, Ace has been great as a freshman, just pleased with his he's got a little cockiness, a little swagger to him, good worker, knows how to play, just things we thought when we recruited him, can shoot the ball. So he's been really good. Jake Heidbreder, coming out of Air Force, had a stress reaction in his hip, and so was out a good bit this summer, and then kind of got released a little bit at the end and started to work with our guys, and just he's kind of a versatile guy, that kind of unassuming, but a little taller, almost 6'5", a little quicker than you think, really good cutter, great worker, just can shoot the ball, and so we like that about him, and he's really fit in well. And then let's see, anybody else new? I'm trying to think. I think that's about it with the new guys. I'm sorry, Boz. Boz is a guy who actually had another surgery on his ankle at the end of his time at Greensboro, and so he was kind of doing a little bit for us the first month, but the last month started to do a little bit more, and hopefully he'll be. I mean, he's pretty much full go, but I think he needs a little more time to get his ankle the way he wants it. But just a real positive energy guy, older guy, experienced, and I think very appreciative of being at this level, which is nice to see. But it's been good. Our guys, I thought they did a really good job. We had our head down, worked. Guys really bonded, and I'm very excited about our team and this season. Questions?
I guess just speaking of the non-conference schedule, the way you built it out, I know you said before that sometimes it's hard to find teams that want to play.
Yeah.
I guess what were the circumstances here that allowed these guys to?
Yeah, Leon Rice is a guy, we're not close friends, but kind of professional acquaintances, a lot of respect for each other, their program, been in a couple tournaments together, and just, he and I had talked a couple times about, love to play sometime, but it's so daggum far. And I think one of our assistants, Coach Bender for us, and one of their guys happened to communicate, and the guy said, hey, we're coming that way for a tournament, any way you guys would want to play. And, Coach Bender brought it to me, and I said, yeah, we'll play. Obviously play here first, and then we have to return the game. And I know it's a challenging trip, but, Boise's supposed to be a great place and fun environment. They have a really good team. They've been good the last 5 or 6 years, and so I just thought it was a really meaningful game and could be good. So we agreed to that, and then Memphis. I'm Coach Bender again, just working the phones and trying to find another home series with somebody, and it worked out that Memphis wanted to start a series, and we told them we would start there because we'd gotten Boise here. It made sense to balance it, and so that's kind of how that came. And obviously Penny's done an unbelievable job. They have a very, very talented roster, really good teams, and so those will be very good games. So combine that with the Alabama game in the ACC SEC Challenge, and South Carolina again, playing them here, that'll be good. I think it's a good schedule.
Sounds like Joseph probably wasn't used to the demands on all the workouts.
Yeah, it's funny. You guys that follow us know we work pretty hard, and we're very proud of our developmental players. And Clemson grit, it's our motto, and we talked about it in recruiting, so it shouldn't have been a surprise to him, but probably was a little bit with, just all the things we did during the summer. The skill workouts are demanding. We did some team stuff, probably a little more demanding in some ways maybe than some years. And then obviously we always do our strong man, and he's not built for that as well. He doesn't, he's trying to figure out how that helps him shoot the ball, right? And we're trying to remind him that he's going to have to guard some people. So, but we had a little morning conditioning test today that we told him, hey, you're going to go home for 2 weeks, but there will be a test when you get back. And but he did fine. He's done well. He's doing fine. He was a little heavy when he got here, but he's dropped about 10 pounds, and he looks much better and moving better. And I think, we told him we're a blue-collar working man's program, and he found it out. So it's been fun.
I guess in that strong man, I think PJ was the strongest guy. Just how Stark has the change been from where he was last year to where he is?
Yeah, started to see it last year, but really because of all the injuries, it's just been challenging for him. But you saw some growth last year with him in terms of maturity, more in terms of like how he carries himself, dealing with all the adversity. It's really he's had a remarkable career for a guy that's been playing hurt for 2 of his 3 years. He really has been extremely productive. And, I talked about it last year. He had some other personal issues going on that he had to deal with that mentally was very trying. And I think that's sometimes where we forget. You see a guy at P.J. Hall, this big, strong, big personality kid, young man, but he really is still a kid in some ways. Like these guys emotionally, they're not as mature as we all want them to be. And physically they look mature, but emotionally they're not. And so that's a, you want to know what happens, like poor performance. Sometimes it's that, right? It's not physical. It's the lingering mental things that are going on. And obviously these kids have a lot going on, and there's a lot of stress on young people right now, probably with all of social media and the pressure that they deal with, and obviously that's why mental health has become so important, now. And I say all that, PJ has just battled and battled and battled, and now this year, having had a healthy off season, he's been a tremendous leader. He's always been a good worker, but he's finding his voice and confidence, and Chase is doing a better job of that. I think that's important. I'm really proud of both of them. Chase went to a leadership camp this summer, and I think that's been good for him. So it's I'm proud of those guys. They've really, both guys have grown tremendously, not just as players but as people.
PJ said he feels as healthy as he's been since before his sophomore year. That level of health, how can that allow him to expand his game on the court?
I think it's just sustain. He plays at a high level pretty consistently, and it's not like there's a lot of things that he, needs to do differently. He needs to rebound the ball better, and he needs to impact the game defensively a little more. And that if he's in better shape, he's moving better, he feels good, he'll have more juice, he'll have more energy, he'll be able to sustain. And I think that's where we'll see it. In terms of his skill level and his touch and his shooting and all those things, he's always been able to do all of that very well. I continue to challenge him to become a smarter basketball player, a more cerebral player, a thinker. And so that's one of my big pushes for him. PJ's a unique guy. He, very carefree and fun, and man, he's unbelievable to coach and a great teammate. But he's not a guy that goes home and watches a lot of basketball. He's not some guy that loves basketball and studies everything with basketball. I mean, he has a lot of interests, and he does a lot of that, different things. It's part of what makes him so good is he can flip the switch and then get really serious and dive right into basketball and attack it. But he also can flip it and get away and, let his mind relax, which I think is important. And so, but there's a fine line there with, understanding as you get older, hey, you need to carry yourself in a different manner. All you have to do is look at the guy ahead of you last year in Hunter Tyson and see a guy that basically was like a pro for a year. I mean, he basically carried himself as a pro, and there's some things that PJ can learn from that. Now, Hunter was a grad student, so he didn't have to go to class during the day. He could do a little bit of work and did some stuff at night. PJ has more school during the day, but there are still some things he can take from that I think he's learning as we've talked about here this summer.
Did you always get the feeling he was coming back?
I did. Unless something crazy happened and he became a first-round pick, I thought PJ wanted to come back. He basically told me he did. Coach, I'm 99% sure I'm coming back. I want to go through the process. I want to learn. I want to experience some new things. But I love Clemson. I want to finish my degree. I want to leave a legacy here. I think he knows he hasn't been 100% healthy either. So I think he wants to see what that's like and see what he can get done, and obviously what our team can accomplish. All good?
Brad, can I ask a
Sure.
Sorry. Chase and PJ both said that they were impressed with Joe, just the way that he does more than just shoot, and that he's really impressed with his passing and playmaking.
Yeah.
Is that something that you've been impressed with as well?
Yeah, but I think I'd studied him more than they had, so I knew he had that in him. He played a little bit of point guard. I mean, he bounced around in his positions there at Syracuse, and that's why I thought he was a great fit for our team. I thought he could play, very easily with Chase, because both guys can do a little bit of everything. Both guys can shoot. Both guys can drive. Both guys can run your team. They can do a lot of different things and will play well together. But Joe just has a good feel. He's smart. He's experienced. He's played a lot of basketball. And, sometimes when you're not quite as athletic and you're not quite as big, I mean, there's a reason why he's scored as many points as he has and won state championships and done a lot of big things. He knows how to play. He knows he's been that size his whole life, so he's always been able to figure out a way to get things done, whether it's scoring or passing or, doing things to help his team win. And so I'm not surprised by it, but, he certainly has shown that he's a willing passer and good passer and knows how to play.
In that respect, do you think y'all could be more dynamic on the wing off the dribble?
I think an underrated skill of Brevin was his driving, and his big body that allowed him when he did drive. He didn't drive as often because he really loved to shoot, but when he did drive, when he saw a gap to attack, he could get through those spots because he's a big shoulder guy. Now he's a big-bodied player that got to the rim. Joe is not like that. He can put the ball on the ground and do some different things, but it's not going to be to the rim, knifing through people. So that part I don't know. I do think in terms of more ball handling, he's more of a ball handler than Brevin was. He can probably, maybe come off a pick and roll a little bit more and make some decisions. We could put the ball in his hand in the full court to alleviate some pressure when Chase is being hounded. So it's kind of different.
As Chase mentioned, R.J. Godfrey is a guy who has taken some steps.
Yes.
For you, the young guys.
Yeah, no, I think Chauncey, R.J., and Dylan have all had good summers. Josh Beatles had a good summer. And you'd hope that as sophomores, as guys that have been in your program now a year and kind of, know what to expect, physically stronger. All have put on a little bit of weight. I think mentally stronger just from, okay, I know what to expect. I've gone through it. Now I know what Coach wants from me and what I think I need to do, what I need to improve. And there's also an eagerness to play a little more, right? There's an eagerness to okay, as a freshman, I'm trying to figure it out. What am I going to get? What's my role? The one negative on last year's team was when we did sub last year, we were young. Most of our subs were young. We were subbing in RJ, we were subbing in Dylan, we were subbing in Josh, we were subbing in Chauncey. They're all freshmen, and so there were some times when, maybe especially on the road a couple times we needed them to play a little bit better if one of the main line guys wasn't playing as well, and we didn't always, they played like a freshman. Now, there were other times when those guys were really good, and we really like them, and we think they all have, very big futures. And I think some of that experience and just success and failures from last year motivated them. And then one of the best things about the sophomore guys is they were all healthy this summer. So while I just ticked off 4 guys, maybe 5 that have battled some injuries through the summer, those guys, they were there all 8 weeks. They got all the reps. They got a bunch of shots. They got to be, primary players. They got better because of all the experiences they've got within the system, and you can see now that they've been in the system, they don't have to think quite as much. They can react and play and make decisions, and that part's been really fun. You kind of watch a whole nother group take another big step, and that's kind of the group that had the biggest step to make, and they're making it.
Hey, Brad,
Go ahead.
Pete at AP.
Sure.
How are you?
Good, buddy.
PJ said he made a couple threes at the combine. Does he now have the green light going forward to hoist it up?
What?
If he wants?
Well, he shot a lot last year, but he's that's one of the things with PJ that makes him special is his ability to score all over the court. I've talked about it for years. He has tremendous touch. He has tremendous hands. He catches balls. He has touch to mid-range. He makes the 12 and 15-foot jump shot look easy, but he can also stretch it to 3 And certainly, you know, we're continuing to work with him on that and just get him even more consistent. But he's, you know, he was able to do that a little bit out of high school, and we're you know, again, giving him more freedom to make those kind of plays. But he took a bunch last year, and he'll take a bunch more this year for sure.
You know, I also wanted to ask you how you balance this new world in college basketball where, I mean, you couldn't possibly know at this time last year that Joe or Jack or any of those guys were going to be on your team, and you have no idea. There might be 4 guys out there right now.
Right.
You don't have any idea that they may be part of your team going forward next year. How do you balance that?
Right.
That you've been so good
Yeah.
at developing players like Jerome,
Yeah.
KJ, Hunter Tyson.
Yeah, thank you. I think we've done a really good job through the years of when we take transfers, there's a real need, there's a real fit. We think their skill set, personality, whatever, matches what we're trying to do, the need for that team that season, you know, and they usually come in and do well because there is a really good fit. And what we tell them in recruiting is the truth, and when they hear it, and it's what it is, right? They're not surprised, and I think the other thing is just like, you know, I think Larry asked earlier with Joe, it's like, you know, we're going to work you too now. Like we're going to keep trying to develop your game, whether you're here for 9 months, 1 year, 3 years, like a Marquise Reed. We're going to develop your game. We're going to work you. We're going to help you get better. And I think guys do get better. But I think a bigger question in terms of just managing your roster, managing a program, that's something that we've talked about, you know, the last 4 or 5 years. But obviously with, you know, the transfer portal, what it is now, you can really change your whole roster. You can flip your roster. I personally, you know, last year was fun because we had one transfer and I kept saying, hey, we're homegrown. Like we were one of the rare homegrown teams where we've got Brevin was our only transfer, and he basically is from here, so we were homegrown. He went to our camps. You know, this year's team we had a little bit bigger need for some older guys. We had a few extra scholarships, and we felt like this team could be good. And so, you know, we wanted to make sure that we gave this team every opportunity to try to win at a high level. And so we went out and got a couple more older guys, and you know, we're hopeful that the blend will be good. We knew that the guys within our program, especially our older players, the PJs and the Chases, you know, those guys wanted some help. Like they want to make sure we know that, you know, we came up just a game short last year, and now that we don't want that to happen again, we want to try to take the next step. So we need to get some reinforcements. I think we did. But then, you know, you have to evaluate it year to year. And I always want to have a core group of Clemson guys that we recruited, that we brought in. Like the sophomores, to me, in this team, those guys are going to be good players and really help us. And, I mean, they're our future. Like, those guys are the next 2-3 years of Clemson basketball. Those guys should be thriving, and they will. And we're kind of setting them into position to become big-time players. And so then it'll be, you know, you may not go out and get as many guys like that. You might just go get a couple more freshmen and turn it over to them and add one guy or something again. So it's kind of a year-to-year, you know, analysis. But that's a big challenge in the profession right now.
Thank you, Brad.
Yeah, thank you.
Joe was telling us earlier that as he evaluated you guys in LSU, that there were a bunch of transfers there, and he was saying that the homegrown sort of nature
Yeah.
here and culture is
Yeah.
probably the difference.
Yeah, I think having played against Joe and Jack and those guys playing against our team, obviously last year's team was a good team. You know, the first time for Jack to play against us, but Joe had played against us, you know, several times. I think it helped. And I obviously sold it in recruiting. I talked about it with both guys. Like, hey, you played against us. You see how we play. I mean, you've watched film, you know the guys on the team, you like those guys, you think they look like good players, you think you can help, you think, Joe wants to win, Jack wants to win, they have 1 year. I want to go somewhere where we think we have a chance to win. I want to go be around good people. I want to be around guys that are, good guys that are motivated, work, help me get better. And I think, there was a serious element or an element of seriousness maybe that our team, I think I've told you guys, I think we're respected in the league pretty well. Like, I think coaches and players in our league respect us and play against us for how we play and how we do things and our approach. And I think those are examples of that. Both those guys, I think they would tell you those were reasons why. And then when they got to come here, especially Joe, when he got to come here for a visit and spend some time with PJ and Chase and the rest of the guys, it was like we felt really good that it was going to be done.
Brad, with taking so many transfers, I guess what were the conversations like with some of the younger guys that maybe would have thought about transferring, I guess, and how were you able to kind of keep that roster intact and still have a bright future?
Yeah, just tell those guys that we believe in them, we love them, and I do. Man, I love those guys. I love RJ, Chauncey, Dylan, Josh. I mean, I guess those are the young guys that we're speaking about. And I think those guys are going to be really, really good. And we're going to need them to be good this year. But we all know iron sharpens iron. I mean, creating competition, best way for you to get better, having a chance to do special things, just talking to them in a way that if you want to be good, you got to have a lot of good players. So we wanted to make sure that we went out and got a couple more. And I think those guys were very comfortable with things here, happy with, certainly our program and what we're doing, how they're being coached and treated, and they also are really having a good experience. But it's, you're always nervous. I'm not going to lie. I'm sure, I guarantee you there were people that were behind the scenes that were making calls about them. But those guys are, again, I love the sophomores. I think those guys I think they're awesome. I think they're going to be great players. And they're fun kids to be around. They're coachable. They work hard. Great families. I mean, they're a blessing, and that's why we recruited them, and it just like all of them, we tell them, hey, you guys are going to get wherever you want to get to, but you got to be patient, right? We have commit to the journey. It's one of our signs right out here, but everybody's journey is different. And if you'll stay committed to the journey, you're going to have a bright future. And that was the same thing I preached to Hunter Tyson for 5 years, and the guy ended up surprising everybody and accept himself, and now he's a very happy, wealthy man.
Mark, you got a final?
Yeah, I think just on the scheduling, Brad, I think I recall you last year being a little frustrated with how early the South Carolina game came.
Yeah.
On the schedule. Now you get it at the back end of non-con. Just how beneficial is that for the rivalry and early?
Yeah, the South Carolina scheduling the South Carolina game is just hard. It's just, I don't know when I've been here a long time, and the game has bounced around, and we can't get a perfect time to play it, and a lot of it stems from the MTEs, or exempt tournaments, and the responsibilities to have options for that, and they're all over the place, and so you're trying to have important games for your guys, take them to different places. Then you have league games, and so we at one point, Frank and I kind of ended up settling in on this in December. It just, wasn't always great because we didn't have students. But it just seemed to be the one thing that we could kind of count on other than like an opener. And I don't think either one of us really loved the idea of like the opener being a game of that significance. And so, this year just bounced back a little bit, and, probably moving forward, my guess is it'll be that way a little bit as well.
All good.
Go ahead.
You mentioned the progress
Yeah.
Have you guys ironed out what the plan is?
No, we haven't. There's still. We're just kind of watching to see how everybody does, how healthy everybody is. Is there a backslide at anybody? How's Alex Hemingway doing? He's had a hard summer. I feel for Alex. It's been very challenging for him. Just certain injuries are really tough and tougher on certain guys, and the plantar fascia has been a real problem. And obviously, he's a guy that runs around and shoots, and when you can't run around very well, that's a problem. He can still shoot, but there's a lot that goes into it. So, hopefully he's doing better. We'll find out more here in the next couple of weeks, and if all is good with him, then we'll see how we approach things with Jake. But Jake has been very open the whole time, and really kind of during the recruiting process was even a guy that was talking about, hey, I'm more than happy and think that it would be really beneficial to me to redshirt. It was really his idea first, he and his dad, and I think some of it was watching Hunter Tyson, and knowing that Jake at the Air Force Academy was a little underweight and, probably hadn't had a full-time nutritionist and strength coach that he can see where it can be really beneficial to him, and he's a brilliant young guy, so he's getting a master's would be an easy thing for him, and so that could be part of his plan. I know it has been since the process started.